I'll be talking about the knowledge society in Delhi. As you know, the process of generation, exploitation, and use of knowledge has been a part of Indian society for long. But in recent decades, especially in the age of revolution on ICT, globalization, and new structural adjustment program, and also enormous process of commercialization of knowledge to generate economic resources, there has been the proliferation of knowledge society in India, which was described as back at 1962 as knowledge economy by McLuhan in American context, furthered by Peter Drucker as an age of discontinuity, and later on we know it was talked about a post-industrial society. It is also talked about third wave or the super-industrial society, and latest we know that Manuel Castle widely talking about informationalism or information society. Government of Delhi has developed a wide framework towards the knowledge society, and that knowledge society frameworks widely talked about that following the whole path of the directives from the Planning Commission and the Knowledge Commission of India, that Delhi should be the knowledge capital of the country, and it will be an ideal model and reference point for all the cities and metropolitan areas of this country. Now, when we're talking about the knowledge sector, we conducted a survey in Delhi, both in terms of the societal composition of the knowledge worker and also knowledge worker working in the several knowledge industries. So when we talk about the knowledge within the wider setup, as you know, Delhi is having different kind of cluster. We are having Delhi with the high economic zone of Delhi. We are having the unauthorized colonies. We are also the slum population. While we are describing the knowledge society component emergence, usually we are finding some of the characteristics which come closer to the description of an industrial society. Does it mean knowledge society itself represent an extension of the industrial society or industrial capitalism? It is widely reflected, a reflection of industrial capitalism in terms of segregation of the labor force, casualization of the labor force, and also enormous proliferation of the unorganized sector in the knowledge economy.
I am going to talk about Delhi as a metropolitan city having a lot of unique features not very common to other cities and metros. The uniqueness of the city is evident in its history, governance, social and cultural features. I have basically characterized this uniqueness in 4 categories. The first, I'll start with the history of the city. It has a unique history. Delhi has often been called city of cities. There were as many as 18 cities, although we talk only about 7 prominent cities, which is a characterization by Hearn Gordon. All these cities were established by different rulers. It has been the capital of mighty empires and kingdoms. Every ruler left the imprint of its existence in terms of architectural structures and socio-cultural ethos. I have basically characterized the city in 5 phases. The first city which we normally talk about, which is still alive in a different form, is Shahjahanabad. The second is Lieutenant's Delhi, which is New Delhi. The third I call the post-partition Delhi, a Delhi which emerged immediately after partition. And the fourth is a master plan Delhi, where an attempt was made to redefine many features of the city in a different way. And finally, the Commonwealth Delhi, I would say, the Delhi which emerged in the process of our preparation for the Commonwealth. Now, Shahjahanabad Delhi, as you all know, is basically old Delhi. This is a Delhi which was constructed by Shah Jahan, and this city has a typical characteristic in terms of historically etiquette, culture, attire, way of life. It was so predominant that time that even most of the British also who came there, they acquired those states. I mean, we come to know more about it through a very celebrated book of William Dalrymple, The White Mughals, who has talked about it, how the British, when they arrived here, they imbibed most of the cultures which was prevalent there. Then we come to Lutyens Delhi, a Delhi which was built by the British. And when the British started constructing this city, they suffered with this notion that most of the Indian cities are unhygienic, filthy, inherently lawless. Their basic idea was to construct a city which is going to be superior in every aspect, a city which is going to project their superiority over other kingdoms, over other rulers who have ruled the city. Lutyens Delhi was actually a city which was constructed on a totally stratified pattern. I mean, the accommodation, the allotment of flats, the allotment of plots in that city was as per the closeness of a person to the seat of power. And that character of the city is still evident when we see that particular city in Delhi, in the New Delhi district which is known today. Then we come to a very important phase in the growth of the city, which is post-partition Delhi. When after partition, a lot of people came here, a city of immigrants, migrants, the whole process which it started attracting people from other places. And in some sense, I think that the migration was a forced migration. It was not a migration which was based on the typical sociological factor of push and pull factors. It was a migration which was actually imposed on the people against their will. They had to move. And in that process, the way city was planned, the way city started accommodating people, it gave a totally unplanned structure to the whole city. That was an attempt was made to correct that through a master plan approach, where an attempt was made to decongest most of the core areas of the city, and the new colonies, the new areas came up in Delhi where they started accommodating most of these people also. And then finally, what we say is the Commonwealth Delhi. It was a Delhi which was in terms of massive improvement in the infrastructure of the city as a prelude to our participation in the Commonwealth. Now, second uniqueness is that Delhi has a unique system of governance. It's not a full-fledged state. It's a city which is governed partly by the center, it's partly by an elected government. It started actually with a resident, it had chief commissioner, then divisional commissioner. So finally also, in fact, in 1953, State Reorganization Committee recommended that the national capital and Delhi must remain under the effective control of national government. The present system of an elected government in Delhi is in pursuance to 239AA of Indian Constitution. The civic affairs of the city is managed not by one authority. It is often said that it's a city which is, the affairs are managed by multiplicity of authorities. For example, the New Delhi is managed by a civic body called New Delhi Municipal Corporation. Rest of the Delhi is managed by Municipal Corporation of Delhi, which is known as MCD. The third is that the cantonment area in Delhi, which is an army area, is governed by the Delhi Cantonment Board. by virtue of being the capital of the country, Delhi has all important buildings here only. The Parliament, the President House, all international offices, and all cabinet ministers, member of parliament, they all stay in this city only. Most of the iconic buildings, they are situated in this city. Recently there was a survey by Intec, and they were able to identify as many as 1,200 monuments in the city, and I am told that probably that list is going to be further updated by adding 600 more monuments in this. Now I'll come to some of the unique statistics pertaining to this city also. Delhi is the most populated city in India with a population density of 11,297. And ladies and gentlemen, it's the figure as per the 2011 provisional census figures. This figure was 9,340 in 2001 census. And one of the districts in Delhi has, I think probably in the whole country, the highest population density, that is Northeast district. The population density is 37,346 per square kilometer. Let me also talk about traffic of the city. We are often bogged by the traffic jams. So in 1996-97, there were 28.48 lakh vehicles on the road in Delhi. And in 2006 and 7, the number rose to 0.32 lakh vehicles. Maximum increase in this whole category of the vehicles was also in the category of privately owned vehicles. 91.13% were 85% private cars, 1,000 as compared to the national average of 8 cars per 1,000. It is a city which is full of monuments, as I have told you. With a population of 1.6.8 crore, Delhi is divided into 9 revenue districts and 11 police districts. There are more than 169 diplomatic missions in this city. Every day, more than 2 lakh people commute from close satellite towns to to Delhi. The city has 8,000 approximately 249 worship places belonging to believers of various faiths. There are more than 6,005 hotels, lodges, guest houses, more than 350 passenger trains being approximately 3,92,000 persons. These figures are important in the sense they provide a totally new dimension to the whole social interaction and interpersonal relationship in the city. I'll finish. Now I'll come to the typical sociological features of the city also. Each district in Delhi, I told you that Delhi has 11 districts. Each district in Delhi has a unique profile. And I'll just give you an example of 2 districts in Delhi. Let's talk about a New Delhi district, the old Lieutenant's Delhi. And the other district is situated in Shahjahanabad, which is in police language, or in the revenue district it is called Central District. Now both these districts are completely different in terms of the profile. For example, New Delhi district is a district which accommodates most of the elite section of the people, those who are ruling elite, I would say. The building architecture, the location of houses, they are all totally different from the Central District. Central District, both, in fact, New Delhi has also been able to maintain its historical legacy, in the sense that it earlier used to be a district of ruling elite. It earlier used to be a district where most of the influential people used to stay there. That character of the city is still intact in a modernized form. Now in Central District also, partly it has maintained its old legacy of being Shahjahanabad, because most of the Havelis, most of the old monuments, they are situated in this part of the city only. The interpersonal relationship in Central District is much different from the interpersonal relationship in New Delhi. New Delhi district is more anonymous sociologically speaking than Central District, where the relationship is very intense in terms of the composition of the population profile of both this district is also different. Delhi has historically been a city which used to have maximum number of villages. It used to have once upon a time 360 villages. And today, as per 2011 provisional figures, there are 111 villages in the city still. Now, if we are talking about the rural areas of Delhi, they are much different from the rural area as we talk in other parts of the country. I think there are three levels at which I would like to describe the whole rural and urban feature of Delhi. We have one core city which is purely urban. It can match any cosmopolitan city in the world in whatever parameters we choose to describe that particular city. Then as we move in next to the core city, we have a cluster of urbanized villages. They are also a part of a rural setup, but they are so urbanized that we use this term urbanized villages, which has included the original inhabitants of that particular village, which was gradually urbanized later on. Now, the third layer is the far-flung areas of Delhi. You know, for example, places like Mundka, places like Najafgarh, places like Jafrabad. If we are talking of all these three layers, the social interaction in urbanized villages, though it's a part of a rural profile, is different from a rural life in Jafrabad in terms of social interaction, in terms of their way of life. So these are the three layers at which I think we can divide the social life of the whole city. Unlike Mumbai and Kolkata and Chennai, which is predominantly a city where we could say that it is homogeneous in terms of having a city where people from one language, one particular religion, one ethnicity, that is the characteristics of the city. I think this is not true for Delhi. We can't say Delhi belongs to, multiple religions, multiple faiths, multiple ethnic groups. It is often called mini India, where people of all religions, languages, and culture exist in perfect harmony. It is a city where we could see temples, mosques, gurudwaras, and churches next to each other. And I'll just end by give you an example of how 5 important religious structures of 5 different faiths, they are situated in the old Delhi. One is if you are at the Red Fort, at the Red Fort red light, the first religious structure is a Gauri Shankar temple. Next to that is a Jain Digambar temple. When you move further, we have Sheeshganj Gurdwara. When you move further, then we have Nili Masjid. And just in front of that, you have a church also. And this has been since ages, let me tell you. And believers of all these different faiths have largely reflected a unique example of peaceful coexistence over the years. Finally, I can only say that Delhi is a city which has risen above the typical mindset of a very famous Sanskrit sloka, where it is normally said, Ayam Nijah Paroveti Gadana Lagu Chetsan Udar Charita Nam Cha Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So Delhi as a city has reflected this characteristics of Udar Charita Nam Cha Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Thank you very much.